Hello everybody out there, Michael Tingsa here. We are back with the Coming Back Stronger, a special edition podcast series focusing on the way food and drinks businesses are bouncing back as the world slowly starts to reopen from COVID-19. We will especially be sharing great stories on how progressive leaders are bouncing back from the pandemic by utilizing the power of technology and delivery. By listening into these conversations in the coming period, you'll be able to pick up great stories, insights, and facts, as well as best practices from industry experts, independent operators to national chains, who all are setting a new standard for how to operate in the new normal. Vita Mojo and Hospitality Mavericks join forces on this project due to have a shared belief on how tech plays a massive role in building companies that's good for people, communities, and the planet. In this episode, we have the very experienced operator and tech CEO Dan Brookman of Airship as a guest. Dan have more than 30 years of experience in the hospitality industry and have worked in pubs and bars and building tech companies. Dan talk about how the pandemic impacted them as a tech business and what they have been doing to help operators to grow sales as well as being compliant during the pandemic. We also talk about what his views are when it comes to the future of food and drink and what role technology has in the new now. Dan gives a lot of great and practical advice which can be implemented straight away to boost your business performance. So tune in and enjoy. Welcome to the Coming Back Stronger special podcast series. And we are now in the end of August, just started in the end of August. And a lot of things are going on in the industry, and we had the Eat Out scheme. We are approaching quickly to the end of furlough, and there's still a lot of activities going on. And there's a lot of businesses still bouncing back. We've been back almost now for 2 months as an industry. And for today's conversation, we're going to be talking a bit more about digitalisation, because there's no doubt about this is the trend that's going to be very big in optimizing hospitality businesses to save time and also to make money, which I think is one of the key things we talk technology. And for this, I've been very lucky to get Dan Brookman from Airship to join me today. So welcome, Dan, to the podcast.
Thanks, Michael.
This is the first time we met during having a conversation about this podcast, but you are what you call a veteran in the hospitality industry. You've been with the industry for a long time, and I've seen a lot of things going on. So for people that doesn't know who you are, Dan, can you just give them a brief overview about who you are and what is Airship all about and what do you guys do?
Sure. Okay. So I've worked in hospitality since I'm 18. I'm 47 now. I opened my first pub, or I was landlord of my first pub at 22. And then I opened my first freehold at 23. Bought 18,000 square feet of Victorian tiles in a rough part of Sheffield called Hillsborough, or Rough at the time, and opened a large live music venue out of an old swimming pool called the Deep End. And during my 20s, had an Enterprise Inns lease. I bought a lease from Coors Brewers and opened a venue in Chesterfield, a cocktail bar, opened a piano bar, a little record label, and a couple of tech companies. And then turned 30 and pretty much burnt out, blew up. The last business that I invested in and co-founded was Airship. And we started out as a text message business called PowerText. We cut our teeth in late night working for Gatecrasher and Ministry of Sound and all of the big dance brands and DJs and nightclub chains before evolving over the years into more of a CRM business and rebranding in 2012 as Airship. So I've had a long time in the industry and worked for hundreds of brands, thousands and thousands of locations, and helped businesses grow into technology and social media and a whole host of different changes.
Yeah, so you know it from both sides of the fence, both as a supplier but also as an operator. You have had many of the pains your customers have.
Yeah, I think I've been an owner operator for many years and really miss it, I have to say. I guess I've molded my business around my experience and continue to really try and help operators get under the skin of their own business and their own customers, if you like.
So just for people out there, when you say airship and technology company, what is it that the problems you're solving with your technology? Because there's like three key challenges I think you take on really well.
Yeah, sure. So we've got two platforms as it happens. So Airship is a CRM, a hospitality CRM, and what that platform does is it connects all of the different data from all of your other platforms. So an operator typically will have a Wi-Fi platform, a booking platform, a customer feedback platform. They'll also have an email marketing platform. Now they've got a click and collect. They've got an order and pay. They've obviously got their EPOS. And what we do is we take all of those data points and we amalgamate all of the customers from all of those points into a single customer view. And that's a little bit marketing speaky stuff, but basically being able to understand who a customer is, have a little bit of a profile about them, and understand the recency and frequency of visit that they have within your brand across your locations. And then obviously be able to market to that customer in such a way that drives up their frequency of visit. And in effect, that's what Airship is. It's a little bit like MailChimp as far as the email aspect of it and the customer journeys, but it's boosted on with all of its data integrations that it has with 40 or 50 platforms out there, and all of the common names that you would expect to hear: Collins, Res Diary, Wireless Social, to name a few. Feed It Back, Yumpingo. And then Toggle is a platform that helps businesses generate pre-sold revenue. That's pre-sold revenue through experiences, gift cards, pay it forwards, retail products, which are two new things which have come around since March. So that platform opens up this opportunity where you can be selling to customers when you're actually not even open.
Right. And then I picked up recently on the radar that you also have been helping with the whole track and trace challenge as we have reopened hospitality, and we have some guidelines for the government saying that we need to know who has been in your venues and at what date and so on, and who they were with, and if in the case that it's proven that you had an outbreak starting in your venue.
Yeah, that's right. We've responded through COVID as best we can. We furloughed half of our team at the outset, but we kept our developers actually as almost a full team of devs. And there's a couple of bits and bobs where we've responded to trends, but then obviously also to what's come out of Boris's mouth. And him announcing the guidance around track and trace, we responded to. We rolled out a solution within about 5 days. We managed to get it live before the pubs opened on July the 4th. We've been very successful with that solution, which is great. We're live in around 7,000 locations across the UK and a little bit of Europe now. And yeah, Airship, it's called Track 2. So we've sort of launched it as a module of Airship. We're averaging around 100,000 check-ins a day across those locations, and we're live in people like Costa Coffee and Pret a Manger and Cafe Nero, as well as Subway, and some hospitals and some football clubs and some train stations, and thousands and thousands of places. And it's been great that we've been able to play a part in that, and also that it's great to be the CEO of a technology company right now.
So you already mentioned a bit, like when the pandemic had. What happens in your, because you get all your customers was, I assume I can hear you have others than hospitality. You mentioned hospitals and train stations, but that must have been like a shock to your system as well. Like from within a day, the whole picture changed, and what is going to happen with my clients and what's going to go on right now in the industry.
The first 4 weeks of the lockdown, and I don't know about you, but I mean, I can't believe we're sort of 5 months in or whatever it is now. I mean, it's you think back to things that have happened. Even like the loo roll, the run on loo rolls. I mean, can you feels like it was 5 years ago, not 5 months ago. There's so much happened in such a short period of time. Yeah, it was really emotional. We were 100% hospitality on the 16th of March, across around 2,500 locations, around 200 customers or something, and it just ground to a whole, and the emotion that was flying around at that time. Yeah, it was, it was really sad. I think that's the thing. It was just really sad, because hospitality it's one of those industries. I mean, it's so fast. It's everything moves at pace. It's never quiet. It's all about meeting. It's all about personality and about passion, and people love the industry and they just live it and breathe it. And all of a sudden, you're told that you can't live it and breathe it anymore. Yeah, it was really sad. And then I think that from the emotional point of it being quite sad, it then turned into a little bit of anger. And then it turned into a little bit of a realization as to what were coming. And obviously, the government were catching up, and the furlough scheme kicked in, and people breathed a bit of a sigh of relief. But obviously, everything that everybody talks about it's just noise, because nobody really knows what's going to happen. And obviously, we're so consumed with social media and content right now, you can't get away from it. And you're sort of drawn along with it. But we furloughed half our team. We closed our offices. We started working from home. And we started supporting our clients the best we could. The other thing that we did, actually, which for our sanity, was that we made Toggle, our gift card platform, free immediately. So I didn't even go to my board. I just posted on social media something rude, a rude word, and said, if anybody wants it, crack on. Go and we'll get you set up, and you can use it in anger. And we got loads of people just signed up with us, like loads and loads of bars and restaurants signed up with us. And we've generated £850,000 worth of revenue since in the lockdown period, through goodwill of customers wanting to buy a gift card for a pub, a chicken shop, pizza restaurant, around and about them, to help them keep them afloat. Which was just incredible. Again, a good time to be a CEO of a tech company.
Yeah, that's also, again, because then you in a way you were helping these individual operators. Everything matters in these kind of situations, or definitely, every penny always matters, but definitely in this situation, like, that's probably have helped a lot of restaurants, just having that, knowing that there's actually people out there that want us to stay, and that maybe also give you them, if not only the financial but also the mental push you need to believe in some kind of future at that point.
Yeah, there was so much goodwill that came out. I mean, it really does take a crisis to bring out the best, often in human nature. And the rally around, we had a Crust Brothers in London, the pizza shop. They just started supplying pizzas to the local NHS. And they just went out to their social channels and they set it up on Toggle and said, just buy a pizza for the local NHS. And I think they did 300 pizzas in 24 hours. And they just delivered them to the local hospitals. They just went there and said, do you want a load of free food? And they went back with, tons of pizzas, and people set up and just doing like collecting money in the community for PPE, for community groups to make PPE. And Leon did their launch of Feed Britain, really early days, and they went out and they just generated tons of cash to deliver food locally and open kitchens in Nottingham. That business that's still absolutely flying, where they were basically just commandeering kitchens to make food to deliver locally. And there's been hundreds and hundreds of examples where people have, it's not even a pivot, it's just the need to be able to go out and do something, help. And it's just the need to be able to do that, and the want of doing it. Yummy pubs again, and only a pavement away. And I don't know, there's just been so much of it, and it's just been so incredible to see.
Yeah, and I guess also the importance of all this, you say care, you can boil it down to caring for others, and the typical when you're in hospitality, also you have two things: you want to serve and feed people. It's deeply in you. You want to do that. And I did the most important. I talked with a guy yesterday, and he said he's called Ed, and he's a local operator in Brighton where I live, and he said like the most important is that we remember we have to keep on serving the communities and the people that's around us because they're going to need our help, whatever we can. I said I know that there's spare cash, but we need to see how we can help. So he's also got involved in things he would not involve in before, helping the council to feed homeless people and so on. And it's beautiful to see that actually what a crisis, as you could say, can get out of people and what kind of energy and care it actually brings.
And I think that an acknowledgement as well to the hotel sector. They open their doors up to the people on the front lines so that they didn't have to go back home. And I mean, some of those nurses and doctors living away from their families for weeks, for months, and just isolating themselves after they've finished a long shift. I mean, it's just honestly, I'm welling up as we're talking about it. Just I hope that we've got a very good record of it. I'm sure there's some projects out there recording the good stuff that people did, so we don't forget it, because it has been quite incredible.
And the journey on, you can say, bouncing back, what you have been doing is actually launching products or pivoting some of the things within the platform. They're solving relevant problems for the operators and also for the community. So you're able to donate and so on. What have you seen? We just talked about, the help that many operators did out and do in their local community, and some stories we probably not even heard yet. Leon's big contribution to Feed Britain and so on. There's probably more than we actually have on the radar. There's almost like a picking up those stories, as you say. But what else have you seen that, like, the really savvy operator, the progressive operators are doing right now out there? Because you see so many businesses from your table and data. Uh, what are you seeing they've been doing, and what are they up to right now? It'd just be interesting just to touch that shortly.
Yeah, sure. So hats off to Leon. First and foremost, they were probably one of the first, and then Coates Restaurants came sort of a close second, and that's pivoting their business to provide an at-home brand. And I think that Pizza Pilgrims as well. Hats off to those guys. Rudy's Pizzas, Manchester, and so many more. I think even Hawksmoor started doing it, and Goodman, and what again, Honest Burger as well. Those guys, and it's quite hard this, because as I'm saying these names, I'm thinking actually there's hundreds of little guys down there that have been doing this stuff, and they might listen to this and go, "Oh, we've been doing that for years anyway." But taking your operation, taking your products that you sell, the food that you serve, the drinks that you serve, and packaging that stuff up and launching it as an online business. And learning the packaging, designing the packaging, working out the refrigeration, setting up an e-commerce website, sorting out the operation of that, drafting people back off furlough and putting them into teams, and then launching that, and then getting people. I mean, obviously, we're all locked down, and everybody's just desperate for normality, and actually then getting something delivered to your door, that just reminds you of something that you could have done normally a month ago or 2 months ago, which was sit down in Coat restaurants and have a lovely meal, or visit your favorite, visit a Leon, or get a pizza from Pizza Pilgrims and actually make it yourself with your family while looking at photos on their Instagram channel or watching Instagram TV. I think the transition from the brand on the high street and people's favorite brands, to actually then doing something at home, um, I think that's been incredible. I think that's, if there's one thing from all of this that I really, really hope, it's that Elite Bistro will still do cook along at home kits after everything gets back to normal next year when there's a vaccine and all of that stuff. that I can still potentially order a cocktail kit off Revolution Bars and have it delivered to my house because I'm actually having a bit of a party at home. So I think that's the main thing that I just love, because the margins are tight anyway. So if you've just opened up a new channel, which is basically at home, it's not delivery. It's actually providing a kit for people to do it at home. You've got delivery as well, and takeaway, and now you've just added a new channel, which is allows the brand to be seen all the time.
That has been interesting how quickly actually that could be come in place, as you said, for many operators, like really responding that for fast and changing a lot of operational setups. And this has been one of the, it's been a horrible journey and still is, but this has been one of the things I've been very fascinated about again, and see how much is speed and innovation to get things done when it needs to. And you can take some of that into the future and actually use that to actually make the industry more agile and more profitable, and all the things it actually needs to become a bit more viable. So it's not as so it's not as shaky when things happen. I think that would be a really good thing, because that's what I think is one of the positives that came out. And I think the eat at home, I will be very surprised if that would change, because people's behaviors have changed. We want to consume things at home. We want to have experiences within a restaurant environment and outside. And actually what we do is actually we're not buying in only to their location. We're buying into their story, and we want to take that story home, of course, as well.
Chefs now and brands, they have this opportunity to speak on a one-to-one basis with many customers at once through their social channels. And all that's happened through lockdown was that they just extended that. I don't know what D that would be. It's like 5D, isn't it? All of a sudden, it's like you can hear them, you can see them, you can talk to them, and everything else. But actually, then what you're doing is you've got 2 bottles of spirits in front of you, a lime, some mint, a shaker, and actually you're making cocktails with them. But you're also doing that on a Zoom call. And you're doing it with 200 other people as well, all at the same time, and sharing that same experience. I think it's really good stuff, because that's the way it was kind of going anyway. It almost makes it just better because it's a bit more real.
I totally agree. It's that thing again that we've gone from this mass communication, as you said, to suddenly. It's much more about, your product is important, your standards important, but it's about this story people really want to buy into. So I've seen that locally as well, where the local different restaurant has gone with some home products as well, and they've been able then to have time to tell their story, why they actually set up the business and so on. And one of them has been really overwhelmed. They have not opened yet because it's just too small. There's some complexity around that. But people are booking so many tables in advance, so they just know they're going to be thriving when they open, and they just want that story back, because they told this lovely story about they built this restaurant for their mom.
Yeah,
and it comes from the heart, and people want to support that, and they make incredible food besides that. So for people out there, it's Man Juice I'm talking about in Brighton. Absolutely amazing place. Only room for 20 people at the time. So
there's a restaurant in Sheffield called Rafters, which is a Toggle customer of ours, and he did the at-home kits, and I think that he ended up with queues outside going to pick up their kits on a Friday and a Saturday to then follow him on Instagram TV and his chefs cooking them at home or in their gardens. It's great. It's great. I mean, it's people being entrepreneurs. It's people surviving and doing the best they can to survive, and often in recession and in times of crisis, obviously it's about innovation, and that's what we've seen.
I agree. From you being sitting in the chair of a CEO of a technology company, how do you see technology's role in boosting performance in the industry? What is the reality of where we are right now? I think that's the second question within that.
It's clear to see that we've jumped ahead a couple of years with the use of technology. QR codes. I mean, it's just you just can't get rid of them. It's quite an amazing thing, you know. I think that 9 years ago I worked for Marston's, and I did a big trial for Marston's Brewery, where we were looking to drive new data. And around that time, it was a little bit of email, but mainly text message actually. And what we did is we set up a trial, and we sent loads of Marston's pub badges, QR badges, for their staff to wear. And we set it all up, and it was quite an expensive campaign to set up, and we did all the tech and everything, and we sent out these badges, and all of the staff put on the badges. And all that happened on the first night was that basically blokes took pictures of bar staff's chests. And the next day it got pulled. But the QR is back, and probably back to stay now. So we've jumped ahead a couple of years, and what we've got is a situation which is pretty cool, actually, in that you've got a lot of different new technology out there, or existing technology which is being adopted more quickly, such as pay at table, such as click and collect. And what that enables is it closes the loop with CRM, and it closes the loop more so than for more businesses than EPOS has been able to do previously. So we saw just before the pandemic, obviously kiosks starting to play a role a little bit more, and that was always a bit weird for me, because it seemed to detract from the actual service that you were receiving, because you go to McDonald's or something and you'd end up queuing for a kiosk, and then you'd queue for your order. But because there was a screen above the servers that actually had your ticket on, your number on, you'd be quite happy to queue. And now, actually, I'm kind of hoping that kiosks die a death a little bit, because you've got the kiosk in your hand and it's your mobile phone. And actually, if you can engage and place an order, and even sit down and place an order. Even, I'm not looking to, I don't want it ever to get rid of servers. I don't want to, I think that the one-to-one relationship in hospitality is absolutely paramount. But in some scenarios, I think that obviously people just want to be able to leave at the end of a meal. They don't want to sit around and wait for the bill. They just want to be able to pay and leave. And I also think that people spend more money when they're just doing it through their mobile phone. And I know there's some decent stats around that that prove that's the case. So I think that what's changed is that the customer's a little bit more centered now around the proposition. I think that the technology has opened up. I think that new technology around click and collect and pay at table elevates the customer's position, and that digital is taking a little bit more of the forefront around operations. And I think that what operators will see is that they'll eventually get a much better overall operation, because some customers will be more bothered than other customers about the one-to-one relationship with them and their server over technology. But what will really happen is that the data behind a business is that much more enhanced from it's another touch point, basically. And we have integrations with Vita Mojo, where we get the basket data. We know they've sat down, we know what they've ordered, we know if it's click and collect, we know if it's at pay at table, we know if it's kiosk for that matter, we know if it's for delivery, and that, with all of the other data that's coming in from Wi-Fi and booking and feedback and unique codes and pre-sold, is just a massive data enhancement, really.
Yeah, and data is a very interesting thing, because hospitality, is you being an operator yourself, it's sometimes very emotional, and it's very based on gut and not fact. And again, and having the right data is often half the trick, as I always say. So yeah, it's great you have a lot of data in your systems, but do they actually give you the picture you need to have to know if you're winning or losing the game, short and long term? Because one thing is revenue, another thing is profit, and one thing is these customers come again and again, but is this really the right customer for your brand, and so on and so on. There's so many when you start to distill data. and actually you make a lot of bad decision not looking at it. I met people that doesn't even look at their data, and I think eat out the sales is a great example here on data, because I've heard so many say, "Oh yeah, we're up on last year," and then when they really sit down and look at it, they just moved sales around a bit and created extra pressure on the operation. So maybe eat out has been good right here and now, but exactly it's going to give them that long term, they actually can't say, because it's just a bit like so we have something to be busy with. As I said, to some operators, and for some operators this has been great, I know that, but for a fact many of them have just pushed more pressure on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, certainly. There's no getting away from the fact that there is a lot of exhaustion in the industry right now. There's some really frayed nerves, and it's really strange, isn't it? Because we've come from this period of lockdown where most people were on furlough, and then we've launched into sort of reopening and getting things back up to scratch, and then we've got the Eat Out to Help Out, which is all of a sudden it's like Christmas, and customers, but you need to do it with social distancing. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing literally today, I spoke to a restaurant group who said actually they don't want the government to extend it. They'd actually be better if the government brought it back in October, and September was almost a bit of a break, and they didn't extend it into September because they are getting a little bit frayed around the edges, and also consumers are getting a little bit needy with it. Um, what I'd say finally about that is it has to have been good for the business, because the customers that have visited within the period, there's got to be new customers there. And if they've done their job, that business, and they've captured those customer details, either through the booking or through the Wi-Fi, or indeed through track and trace, or through customer feedback following visit, then they can immediately engage that customer on a good customer journey. And they've got their data, and they should be looking at those customers and those new customers as future prospects, and doing all of the good stuff like the birthday marketing and the welcome journeys, and potentially running their own campaigns to ensure a revisit within a certain amount of time.
Yeah, and I think that's the operator really have leveraged this, has, because I had talked with somebody this morning. He has really planned this really well and said that I accept this is going to take a bit of a toll on the operation, but I'm going to get clients in or customers from the city I normally wouldn't come in, maybe because of the price point. He said now they don't have that, they will come and try and find out this is actually where it's coming from. So he's overstaffed, and made sure that, as you say, that the experience is incredible good, like it was Saturday, and he's just accepted there's an investment into the years ahead, as he said, where it's going to be even harder acquiring new people. This is a bit like a marketing stunt. That's how he looked at it. So I agree. If you use it in the right way and just don't get busy for the sake of busy, then you can leverage that, and you have some data afterwards, as you said. Another interesting conversation that's going on, and that's gone on for years, is the industry is sometimes a bit in the dark ages with the come with technology and the connectivity of that technology. And I know we had a bit of a chat about that before we did the podcast. What is that is important around technology now that we have these, as you said, we move forward, we are heading 2 years forward where we were in our planning? What is it that important now as we then have implemented all these different platforms and we go into the new now?
I'm a bit of a broken record on this, and people that know me will sort of glance upwards, but the platforms, they have to be integrated. So I think technology lets itself down, and I've done it in the past. Put my hands up to it, but we let ourselves down because we overpromise and underdeliver. And in a lot of ways, that might not be around functionality, but it's actually around integration with other platforms. And the customer experience is so much more enhanced and so much better when platforms talk to each other. And in a lot of ways, platforms are competitive between each other. But I think that where an operator takes on platforms to do a specific job, and there's probably 6 or 7 within a business that they use on a daily basis, maybe more than that, actually, maybe up to 10 now. Those platforms, they have to integrate together. It makes operations easier. It makes the customer experience so much better, and it makes the marketing so much more effective if platforms integrate. So uh, I would say to any business out there that's looking to take on a platform, just make sure that it integrates first with the platforms that you have in your business or that you're planning to use in your business. Because if it doesn't, all it will do is set you back and cost you money and create a poor operational and customer experience.
Yeah, and I think this again with connecting the things again, not just from a data point of view, but also to understand how you actually getting the full leverage of your digitizing your business. Because in my world, this is one of the massive. If I was the CEO of a chain, that would be my priority number one. If it was not already on the radar, this is like where I can actually get a bit of room, either win time back or cut cost, or actually even create sales. If you think about selling gift cards in advance, and I think that's the key thing. You always have to understand. I found out very quickly implementing technology into to restaurants was that if it can save you time or make you money, then it's a brilliant software. But you need to know how it plays with the rest of the business and the way you actually run that business. How do you get it integrated into your daily ways of doing things? A bit like any other tool, if it's a checklist or whatever it is. How do we actually get it under the skin? And I think that's the work that sometimes slips, the implementation, the integration, and really becoming a habit. And that's not because the tech doesn't work. It's actually sometimes because you don't do you just say it's implemented, check the checkbox, and you move on.
Yeah, I think that look, as people get used to using their phones and using click and collect, and truthfully, I absolutely love it because I love the engagement with teams and with staff, and when I go out. But actually, when if I'm on my own, if I'm traveling on business or anything like that, and I just wander into somewhere, sit down, I open my laptop, I get my phone, I find the order and pay, I scan the QR, whatever, and I get to it. It's almost like that experience of just using my thumbs and just being able to do it on a mobile phone. You need to. It's. I don't know how to explain this best, but if you think about going to a website, and a lot of operators' websites, they're not as intuitive. They're just not intuitive as the mobile phone. The website doesn't remember me. I'm not logging into it. If I click a link from an email, it's not taking me to a page that says, "Hi Dan, when do you want to book?" It's like, the digital aspect of the mobile phone. It just needs to be carried through the business a little bit more, so that the customer is more at the center of it. And I think that most customers would really appreciate that. They'd really appreciate the acknowledgement, which is the same as you get if you go online and you're on Amazon, or it's like they just know us, basically.
Yeah, and it's interesting that thing you say. Amazon is a great example of where you could have an ambition vision to take your business about. I love the one click payment. It's like one of my favorites. I don't have to go through all these steps to pay. And I can remember how many times I haven't been on a website where the payment has been the issue, and therefore I didn't buy in the end because I just couldn't. There's nothing wrong with my credit card. I just can't deal with this anymore. And where Amazon really solved that, and I think you'll probably be surprised about how much their revenue. I don't know the number, but it must have gone crazy when they solved that challenge in a way from a customer experience point of view. Found my product, swipe it, I get it next day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Taking it a big up to the further away from just focus on technology and the future in that and where we are right now. If we go down in and talk about how do you see you spend all your life in food and drink. What do you think the future looks like? And I know it's a incredible, difficult, or maybe a bit an unfair question in these times. But what is your view and how you see that's going to happen in the next 12 to let's keep it 12 to 18 months? Besides, it's a very tough time right now and a lot of uncertainty.
It's all down to when the vaccines actually developed and rolled out, isn't it? I mean, I really hope that we manage to nail down the next 6 months through winter, so we don't need to do a national lockdown. We know that there's going to be more consolidation. We know that there's going to be a lot of closures. in the industry. We also know that there's obviously a lot of people now turning to dark kitchens and doing more and more sort of dark kitchens and delivery only brands. And I think that obviously that will have increase again and have more of an impact as people get used to eating at home. So I think that the occasions to go out will decrease. Obviously, we're not back in our offices yet, so the commuting isn't a thing yet. But I'm hopefully, that will come about as well. But we, yeah, it's a really hard question. That it really depends where you are in the country. I think that London's going to suffer for ages. I really do. I'm really fearful for London, because I think a lot of these businesses, I think that Google has said don't bother coming back till next July, work from home. And I think in that period, so many businesses are just going to go, we get better productivity when we let our staff work from home. I mean, it's, there's no two ways about it. If I don't have to travel for 3 hours a day, a commute, and I can start at my laptop earlier, whether I've got little kids running around or dogs or whatever in the background, I still get probably a better day's work from my team. So, yeah, I think that that's a really big worry. I hope that the businesses that are doing the at-home products, and that more businesses do at-home products, and even more subscription businesses around at home as well, and because I think that that will be good, a good innovation for hospitality to be more at home, and hopefully we will see another breed of entrepreneurs coming through to take up some of the slack, just evolving that idea, really, just evolving that idea. I think that would be good.
Yeah, and I think the last thing you say is that if you look at that, it's going to be a lot of hardship, but there's also going to be massive opportunities for the people with the right solutions with the right response to COVID. As I said to other people, it's about how you respond to this and how you can respond. And now than ever, I just talked with a friend of mine. I said, well, it's allowed to operate out of a hole in the wall now again. We are back to where it started 10, 15 years ago, when some of the brands we know today started out, in last recession, like people doing incredible things. And I think here you will see massive innovation. I even talked with a catering company that talked about, we can see now that the way the office is going to come back is there's an element of cities near the M25 is going to have more regional offices. So big corporates going to have teams in regional offices where they're going to rent a bit of space, get rid of the expensive space in London, maybe have a couple of floors in London as the HQ. But in principle, you work from a regional office if you can't work from home because of kids and other commitment, don't have the space. You can go to your regional office and they would have to go and deliver and become a delivery business more than an on-site catering business. And there's so many big shifts happening right now that I think we're going to rewrite the way we do things, and I think that's the hard bit.
I think that one of the most important things here is that customers are going to be more loyal. So I think that they're going to really quickly trust where they go to eat and where they go and have a drink and visit, and I think they're going to stick to that because I think that that's going to be, it's going to be a really big part of it in the next 3 months and 6 months. And I think that that will probably stick with people. So they will probably go back to having favorites that they always go to. And they're less likely to try something different. It'll need quite a large sway for them, quite a lot of word of mouth for them to actually go and try something different. And we must remember in hospitality that we live and breathe it, and we're not the average consumer, and we've got to think about ourselves as the average consumer. And the average consumer, they want to go out, they want to feel safe, they want to know it's clean, they want to have great service, they want to have a great product, and it wants to be an experience because people are going out a little bit less, so it's really, operations going to be absolutely the key. And whether that's a digital feel good factor in that I can order ahead, I can sit down, I can order at my table, the food's good, the service is good, everything's amazing. And then I can Instagram, I can review, I can leave, and then I can book in for the following week and come back again. Yeah, I think that's going to be a big thing.
It's interesting because we are in the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as you say here, because it's about trust. Trust in the basic things that works. And actually, you show me that both with the location, but also in the way you welcome me, the way your digital things. It all has to be combined in a way. I talked with it was a couple of weeks, probably 6 weeks ago, just in the start of the COVID. And I said to this operator, are you aware that on your website, you don't tell that you're doing all the things in your restaurant, yet you are COVID proofing it? Because the first thing I would check before I would go anywhere, I would check the website to see your policy to make sure my family was safe. Oh my God. And again, there's like these things again, think it through the whole customer journey and then build that trust now to leverage it later when you need them to come again and visit you. So you get these repeat customers, because I think you're right. If people find something that works, they will stick with it because there's enough uncertainty.
Yeah. And there's choice out there. There is choice. I went out on Monday evening to the local pub with my family, and they presented the tomato ketchup and the mayonnaise and the salt and vinegar. It came in a little wooden box, and it was Heinz products or whatever. And my wife was really unhappy because she knew that they weren't cleaning down those bottles. And she was like, immediately, why aren't they doing this in a little pot? And there's so many things to kind of get right and think about. And then I said to her, they're cleaning down the bottles, and they had a little station around the corner, and they were actually wiping down the bottles every time, they'd come back. But there's so much fear out there. Whether it's correct or not, there is a lot of fear, and it is about trust, making the consumer feel safe, giving them a great experience for their money. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. If in the end of the conversation, Dan, and we're unfortunately starting to get there, is because this is a great conversation. I think there's people are getting a lot of stuff out there. But always in the end, I always ask somebody to give their top 3 advice to leaders out there that's looking to bounce back. And you have, such a heavy background. And I know you haven't been in a pandemic. Nobody has been there. But what would be your top 3 advice for people out there in the industry right now, and what should they start doing, or should they review if they're already doing it?
Number 1 is sweat your channels. So it's not just 3 revenue opportunities anymore. There's so many revenue opportunities, whether that be Deliveroo or Uber Eats, or doing it yourself, whether it be click and collect, whether it's doing retail or gift cards or experiences or packages or bottomless lunches, whether it's selling to corporates and doing parties, or hiving off a bit of your venue as a private space, or even doing outside catering. I think it's looking at those different revenue channels and being entrepreneurial as to what you do with those revenue channels, and making sure that you're not dropping the ball on them as well. Because it's really easy to do so. So number 2 would be sweating the CRM. And you've got all of these new customers coming into your businesses with Eat Out to help out. And I'm not sure when this podcast's going out, but you've still, you've got a CRM. Hopefully you've got a CRM, and you've got some social channels, and just make sure you leverage them. And that you're doing the basics, that you've got your birthday marketing set up, that you've got a really good value exchange. And the value exchange is really simple. It's nothing technology based, really. Actually, it's about brand, and it's about the customer understanding why you're collecting their data and wherever you're collecting that data from. So whether it's through your website or through the Pay at Table app, whether it's through customer feedback or through Wi-Fi or through booking, it's immediately taking that customer in, engaging with them through great comms like an email the day after they join, saying, welcome, this is who we are, this is the club you're now part of, and this is what you're going to get, and lay it out really simple, and lay it out simply across those first point, which is those the channels and your revenue opportunities. So that would be number 2. And number 3, it's not my bag, but operationally, just the staff on the ground, just train them to the nth degree and make sure that last 2 feet that they're having with the customer is just amazing, and that they're engaging the customer the best possible way that they can, the teams in your businesses, because everything else is just a nonsense if your teams on the ground aren't as passionate in what they're doing as they can possibly be. And I know that that's a really hard thing to get right, but that last 2 feet of your team member engaging with the customer is critical.
That was some great advice. Especially, I liked all of them, but especially the thing about sweating, and also keeping at it when you're doing something new. We talked a bit about the at-home experience. Again, accepting also it takes time to build this credibility within a new channel. So if it doesn't take off straight away and it didn't work, it's actually the importance of keep on doing it. If you have people buying it now, there are probably more people out there. And again, I totally agree with you from a marketing point of view. The newsletter is sometimes a forgotten strategy to acquire both old customers or existing customers to come more often. If it's a restaurant, whatever you're doing, the power of newsletter is or email or CRM marketing is incredible powerful, because they signed up by their own intent. And I think we forget that sometimes, how powerful that database, no matter how many you have, if you have 10 or 100, 1,000, these are people that want to hear from you. They want you to tell them more.
Yeah, the data is the bedrock of the business, absolute bedrock of the business. And GDPR made email marketing and database marketing so much more transparent. And it's not really been embraced as much as it should have been. But running a simple friends of, family, club, A-list, VIP list, whatever you want to call it, wrap up that database effort into one single thing and then mold your marketing around it, and you suddenly find that it's 10 times easier.
I totally agree. And I think I just want to say the last notes on that, because I thought it was so interesting you're bringing that up. Actually, I've never thought about that. It's such a, right now, starting building that community, as you say, your brand advisors or whatever you call them. So if there's a book out there, I don't know if you know this book, Dan, but it's done by David Hyatt. He runs Hyatt Jeans in Wales, and he's built his whole business on email marketing. And you can get that. It's called Do Email, I think it's called. And go and find that book and read this opera. Very easy read, but it's like super concrete example of how you actually engage with your customer groups when you have the data, and how you utilize it. So yeah, that was a great example. I thought people should have it out there. Dan, it's been an absolutely pleasure to talk with you and getting your insights and advice about where you think things are from an industry point of view, how to leverage the technology bit as well. Thank you so much for taking the time out, and I send all the power and energy that you and your team needs to get on the other side whenever we get there.
Thanks, Michael. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much, Dan, for your great insights and knowledge about how tech can help to boost performance in the businesses you're running out there. And also your advice about how to survive and thrive in the new now. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please give us a like, share it with people you think would benefit from it, rate it, and let us know what you think. The Coming Back Stronger series are brought to you by the wonderful people at Vitamojo, the digital partners for ambitious operators. We're helping Leon, Yo Sushi, Farmer J, and other leading brands transform their businesses with technology. Check them out at software.vitamojo.com or contact them directly at nick.lidl@vitamojo.com. Thanks for listening and keep innovating.